Have you ever seen a chess master sit in silence for 10 minutes, eyes locked on the board, while their opponent fidgets, talks, and blunders? That's the power of silence. It doesn't shout. It doesn't explain. It watches, waits, and wins. Welcome to today's video, How Silence Wins Every Time Machiavelli. In a small village, there were two leaders. One, loud and proud, always had something to say, boasting, blaming, explaining. The other was quiet, reserved, and strategic. When conflict arose, the loud leader ranted in public. The quiet one listened, observed, and acted when no one expected. In the end, the village turned to the silent leader not because he made noise, but because he moved with precision. He didn't need attention. He demanded respect. That's the game Machiavelli understood. In his works, especially The Prince, Machiavelli outlines how power often flows to those who know when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. He knew silence was a tool not of passivity, but of dominance. Silence disarms your enemies, forces others to reveal themselves, and gives you control in negotiations, relationships, and politics. In this video, we'll break down how strategic silence is a weapon of the wise, how Machiavelli viewed it not as weakness but as strength, and why, in our noisy world, the quietest person in the room often holds the most power. Think about it. When was the last time you stayed silent in a heated situation and came out stronger for it? Drop your story in the comments. Have you used silence to gain an edge? Or maybe you regret not holding back? Let's open a real discussion about how this timeless tactic plays out in our modern lives, from business to personal growth. And if you've ever felt the pressure to explain yourself, to react instantly, or to defend your thoughts, this video is your invitation to rethink that instinct. Machiavelli would tell you, those who speak too much give away their power. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because sometimes the smartest move is saying nothing at all. Let's dive in. Machiavelli understood something fundamental about human nature that most people overlook. Silence is the ultimate weapon in the arsenal of power. Throughout history, the greatest strategists were not those who spoke the loudest, but those who knew exactly when to say nothing. The leader who reveals his thoughts becomes predictable. The general who announces his strategy invites defeat. The negotiator who cannot hold his tongue loses before the battle begins. In a world obsessed with noise, with constant communication, with the need to be heard, we have forgotten the ancient wisdom that true power often lies in what remains unsaid. Machiavelli, in his political writings, observed that men judge more by the eye than by the hand because everyone can see, but few can feel. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. This principle applies perfectly to the strategic use of silence. Those who master it create an aura of mystery, of unpredictability, that keeps others constantly guessing. Silence is not the absence of power, but its most refined expression. It is not weakness, but calculated strength. Most people cannot tolerate silence. It creates discomfort, tension, a void that they feel compelled to fill with words, with explanations, with justifications. In their desperate attempt to break the silence, they reveal everything: their fears, their desires, their strategies, their weaknesses. While the master of silence simply observes, collecting information, gathering intelligence, learning exactly where to strike when the moment comes. In his famous work, The Prince, written as advice for rulers and powerful figures, Machiavelli advised those in positions of power to speak rarely about anything that mattered, because every word can become a liability, every dull statement a future trap. Those who talk too much give others the rope with which to hang them politically, socially, strategically. The art of silence gives you time to think while forcing others to speak without thought. In the Discourses on Livy, Machiavelli notes that the wise leader allows others to come to him with their thoughts rather than freely offering his own. This is the essence of strategic silence. It is not merely staying quiet, but creating a vacuum that others rush to fill with information you can later use against them. Modern leaders have forgotten this simple truth. Bombarding the world with tweets, with statements, with endless commentary, they reveal their hand before the game even begins, while those who truly understand power speak only when it serves a specific purpose, when it advances their position, when it misleads their opponents, or when the silence has done its work. Machiavelli writes that a powerful person must learn to be a great pretender and dissembler. Applied to communication, this means understanding that not every thought deserves expression, not every opinion needs to be voiced, not every emotion requires acknowledgement. Those who speak without purpose, without strategy, without calculation, are like soldiers charging blindly into battle. They may occasionally win through luck, but they will eventually be outmaneuvered by those who wait, observe, and strike only when victory is assured. Silence creates mystique, and humans are naturally drawn to what they cannot fully understand. When someone remains quiet in a discussion, others automatically assume depth. They project wisdom, authority, control onto the silent figure while simultaneously revealing their own insecurities through nervous chatter. This psychological mechanism gives the silent strategist an immediate advantage before a single word is spoken. Machiavelli understood that information asymmetry is the foundation of power. The one who knows more than they reveal always maintains the upper hand, while those who reveal more than they know surrender their advantage without realizing it. In any negotiation, in any conflict, in any relationship, the party with greater information control holds the power to dictate terms. This is why silence is not just tactically useful, but strategically essential. Silence also creates timing advantage. The person who speaks first often commits to a position that limits their options, while the one who waits can adapt their response to changing circumstances, can observe weaknesses, can identify the optimal moment to be, act, or speak. Machiavelli advised that nothing weighs so much as haste, and this applies doubly to communication. Hasty words reveal intention, expose strategy, and eliminate the element of surprise. Consider how many have destroyed themselves with impulsive statements, with emotional outbursts, with unnecessary revelations that could have been avoided through discipline. Silence is not passivity. It is precision. It is power. And in the art of war, whether in politics, business, or personal life, it is often the difference between being heard and being heeded, between surviving and dominating. Machiavelli emphasizes that no enterprise is more likely to succeed than one concealed from the enemy until it is ripe for execution. The same principle applies to communication. The thoughts you keep concealed are weapons that remain sharp. The plans you keep private are surprises waiting to be unleashed. The intentions you mask are advantages your opponent cannot counter. Silence is not merely the absence of speech, but the presence of power, carefully cultivated. True masters of silence understand that it serves multiple functions simultaneously. It protects information, it creates mystery, it forces others to reveal themselves, it builds anticipation, it maintains flexibility, it demonstrates control, and it establishes dominance, all without a bailli, single word being spoken. There is a reason why, in ancient courts and power centers, the one who spoke least was often feared most. Silence communicates strength in a way that words rarely can. Anyone can talk, but few can command attention through their mere presence, through the anticipation of their words, through the weight of their silence. The modern world has forgotten this ancient wisdom. In an age of social media, of constant updates, of incessant noise, the person who masters silence immediately stands apart, mysterious, powerful, in control. While others exhaust themselves with endless chatter, the silent observer watches, plans, calculates, and waits. Machiavelli notes that people in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands, because everyone can see, but few can touch. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. Silence allows you to control what others see, to project strength while concealing weakness, to appear resolute while maintaining flexibility. Every word spoken narrows possibilities, creates commitment, establishes expectations. But silence keeps all doors open, all options available, all strategies viable. Look at how the masses behave in any conversation, in any meeting, in any negotiation. Most people cannot bear even a moment of silence. They rush to fill it with words, with noise, with anything to escape the discomfort that silence creates for them. But the strategist, the Machiavellian thinker, values this discomfort. He creates it intentionally, knowing that human nature will compel others to speak, to reveal, to expose themselves, while the silent one gathers intelligence. In his writings, Machiavelli observes that the most successful leaders were those who knew how to use the appearance of virtue while acting according to necessity. Silence facilitates this dual approach, allowing one to appear agreeable while inwardly planning according to their true interests. Those who cannot control their words cannot control their destiny. They become predictable, manipulable, transparent, while those who speak only with purpose, only with strategy, only when silence has served its function, maintain control over both the narrative and the outcome. Silence is not merely a defensive tactic, it is an offensive weapon. It is not just about protecting your own thoughts, but about using the discomfort of silence to extract the thoughts of others. The skilled practitioner of silence asks a question, then waits, not rushing to fill the void, but allowing the tension to build until the other person feels compelled to elaborate, to justify. This technique has been used by the greatest interrogators, negotiators, and leaders throughout history, all understanding intuitively what Machiavelli formalized centuries ago: the power of strategic silence. There is another dimension to this practice that Machiavelli understood implicitly. Silence conveys authority. Those who speak only when necessary, who choose their words with care, who allow silence to emphasize their statements, are perceived as commanding, as authoritative, as deserving of attention. In contrast, those who speak constantly without restraint, who fill every moment with noise, quickly find their words losing value, becoming background noise, easily ignored and dismissed. Machiavelli advised powerful figures to speak rarely, but when they did, to ensure their words carried weight. This principle applies equally to modern power dynamics, where attention has become the scarcest resource in a culture drowning in information. Silence also creates the space for observation, for study, for understanding one's opponents. Machiavelli emphasized that anyone seeking influence must be a great student of human nature, must understand the motivations, weaknesses, and desires of those around them. Silence facilitates this study. When you are speaking, you cannot be listening. When you are talking, you cannot be observing. But when you are silent, your senses are fully engaged, collecting the data that will later prove decisive. Most people never develop this skill. They are too focused on being heard, on proving their intelligence, on demonstrating their worth through constant verbalization. Every sentence, every interjection, every rushed comment is meant to assert, to defend, to display competence. But what they fail to realize is that with every unnecessary word, they diminish their power. They strip away their mystique and reveal the very insecurities they are trying to conceal. In their eagerness to be seen as smart, they unknowingly broadcast fear, the fear of not being enough in silence. Machiavelli observed a timeless truth. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. That distinction, the gap between perception and reality, is not a liability. It's an opportunity. And it is widened, not narrowed, through the strategic use of silence. When you withhold words, you invite projection. Others will fill the silence with their own assumptions, beliefs, and narratives about you. They will paint a picture based on what they want or fear you to be, while you maintain the freedom to move, to pivot, to strike or retreat without warning. Silence preserves your internal clarity while confusing those who depend on your words to understand your intent. The silent individual becomes a mirror, a surface onto which others project their hopes, fears, expectations, and in doing so, reveal far more about themselves than they ever learn about you. This is the essence of Machiavellian power dynamics: control over information, asymmetry of knowledge, manipulation through selective revelation. Power, in its purest form, is not about domination, it is about control. And the most essential control is over the narrative, over what is seen and what remains hidden. There is a rhythm to power, a cadence to interaction that Machiavelli understood intuitively. Knowing when to speak and when to remain silent is not merely about self-restraint. It is about mastering the entire dynamic of human exchange. It's about shaping the flow of information, altering the balance of power, and steering the momentum of events. Those who master this rhythm who understand when silence speaks louder than words, and when words must be chosen with surgical precision possess an advantage that goes beyond tactics. It becomes a form of strategic dominance. They do not merely participate in conversations, they orchestrate them. Their silence is not absence. It is anticipation, preparation, calculation. Machiavelli warned, "There is nothing more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle, than to initiate a new order of things." This applies not just to politics or governance, but also to communication. The first to speak is the first to commit. The first to reveal becomes the most vulnerable. They expose their hand, while the quiet observer listens, adapts, and prepares a more intelligent response. A mind that speaks without restraint is like an open book, easily read, easily predicted, easily manipulated. But a mind that reveals itself slowly, strategically, and with intention remains a mystery. And mystery is powerful. Mystery forces others to watch you more closely, to study your movements, to second-guess their assumptions. Silence is patience made visible. It is discipline you can see. It is strategy in embodied form. Those who cannot tolerate silence, who feel the need to fill every pause, to react immediately, to comment on every detail, demonstrate a lack of self-mastery. And Machiavelli would have recognized this instantly as fatal to any serious ambition, because power requires patience, and patience often manifests as silence. Even in high-stakes negotiations where it seems words are your only tool, silence is often more potent than speech. The side that can wait, that doesn't blink, that doesn't rush to fill the awkward pause, always has the advantage. Silence becomes a pressure device. It makes others uncomfortable, makes them speak too soon, reveal too much, offer too quickly. Skilled negotiators know this. They've trained themselves to embrace silence, to let it work for them rather than against them. Machiavelli knew, in politics, war, and everyday life, the appearance of strength often matters more than actual strength, and silence projects strength in a way that words rarely can. It communicates confidence, control, composure. On the other hand, excessive speech often betrays anxiety, insecurity, or even desperation. The Machiavellian does not waste energy on empty affirmation. They speak when speech advances their objective, and only then. In a world addicted to noise, the one who masters silence commands attention. In a room full of speakers, the one who watches and waits holds the real power. In a culture of constant commentary, the disciplined user of silence wins again and again. They don't rush to be understood. They don't argue for validation. They let silence raise the stakes. So now, after everything that's been said, ask yourself with brutal honesty, do you speak too much? Do you reveal more than necessary? Do you fill the quiet because it feels uncomfortable? Or have you learned the ancient wisdom Machiavelli knew so well, that silence is not the absence of power, but its most refined expression? In mastering silence, you master yourself. And in mastering yourself, you become worthy of mastering others.